guess.
Good afternoon. Thank you again for attending today. Always fun to be the first session after lunch. We'll basically change our tones of inflection to make sure there's no sleeping, and we'll keep it going. A couple of things we'll do is we do want to make this interactive. So, we will have some parts for questions. We're going to make this kind of an interactive discussion with the doctor and myself, but we will have areas to discuss in the beginning. Kind of by a show of hands, how many people are doing something with IoT today? How many people, any idea with IoT today? So let's take a step back, okay? So my name's Alan Zawistowski, and I'm with IBM's Internet of Things team here in the federal team in North America. And my background in IoT, I actually got into this about 4 years ago. I was working for a company called Microsoft, and my job was actually to go out and work with companies on their embedded operating systems. And so think about people that are building point-of-sale devices, people that are building ATMs, people that are building medical devices. And one of the big challenges you got to these people was they've got these devices, but the device is outside their ecosystem, right? It's not the desktop they have here. It's something, kind of over there. And so one of the things we started talking with these people about is how to use cloud technology to essentially go out and manage these devices. Well, I think we're past that phase right now, right? Because number one, you talk to Gartner, you read any analyst report, and they will tell you that there's 50 billion of these types of devices that will be here by 2020. So that was phase one. So what was phase two? In addition to managing the device, people wanted to get some information from the device. So not only can they ping it to see if it's up or down, but if it's collecting, for example, a medical device collecting blood pressure information. What's that information? How can that information be fed back? So we began then to work with customers on trying to bring back data, right? And that became what I'll call the second wave of people trying to go out and capture data. Now, I'm not going to go through the IBM process here, but I will tell you, with the cognitive pieces of IBM, we're really moving into a third area. And the third area is simple. If I take a blood pressure reading, and that blood pressure reading is 160, in the old days, I might just record it. But today, I might know that Alan has congestive heart failure. So that 160 should alert somebody to get a doctor out to Alan. And now we're talking about machine learning. We're talking about cognitive abilities from that data. If you talk to Gartner will tell you right now, today alone, 5 million more devices will be raised on the internet. Okay, will become connected. If you talk to McKinsey, they'll give you an interesting model that says by 2020, this area or business is anywhere between 4 trillion and 11 trillion. Real interesting wide gap there, right? A factor of 3, right? And so the reason is because all of these devices, people really today aren't really sure of the business values that are going to come out of this, right? A lot of those are unrealized. There's 3 main areas that people seem to work on. Number one is trying to generate new revenue, right? The second is getting close to the people in their ecosystem. But I'd argue, just from customers that we've worked with, the real number one issue is driving efficiencies in a known business process. Be it healthcare, be it the connected car, or today's discussion, which is going to be around agriculture. So I'm very happy to have Doctor with us today from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. We're going to talk about agriculture in the U.S., and we're going to talk about how the Internet of Things is going to help transform that industry and some of the areas of opportunity that are there. So with that, I'd like to pass it.
Thank you, Alan. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here, and I'm going to stand here. It's probably more comfortable for me than sitting there because I got back problems. So many of you probably do. Anyway, so first of all, I want to thank everyone for your public service because this is a public service recognition week. I know that there are lots of federal employees in this group here, so thank you for your public service. It's a noble cause, and I'm glad that we are serving the public and the U.S. citizens. As Alan was saying, my role at USDA, USDA has got about 19 subcomponents within it. So National Agricultural Statistics Service is one of them. Our mission, National Agricultural Statistics Service's mission, is to publish data that is timely, accurate, useful, and relevant to U.S. agriculture. And as you all know, the U.S. agriculture creates close to $500 billion in GDP, adding to the GDP. So U.S. agriculture does provide quite a bit of sustenance to the economy and adds value to the U.S. GDP. And U.S. agriculture is one of the most productive agricultural system in the whole world. And why are we thinking about making it more efficient? Let me paint you a scenario. By 2050, the world population is going to be 9.6 billion with a B people. The food that is generated today has to increase by 70% to feed all those mouths. Why is it? It is very important, if you know the Maslow's pyramid, that you got to satisfy the basic need of feeding people, which is very important. The challenges are every minute. In this country, we lose about 2 acres of farmland for development, erosion, and flooding, other things. And on top of it, the climate change is going to decrease the world agricultural yield by 20 to 40%. There is a lot of pressure on farmland in this country and all over the world that might interfere with the production or the yield. What is the way to overcome it? It is better systems, better services, and better seeds, fertilizers, and other things that go into the agriculture productivity system to make it more efficient. If you look at the farm yield, it has been increasing at a pretty good level, and it cannot keep on going in, but we could continue to create a better system to produce better yields by focusing on the things that matter to increase the yield. One thing the farmers started doing is to target the crops so that they get maximum yield out of it. In a farm operation, there are inputs that go into the farm and the output is the crops. Say, for example, let me use corn or soybean. About 90 million acres in this country are planted with corn or soybean every year. And of course, the farmer is going to be profitable if the money he puts into the farm, fertilizers, seeds, and the equipment that he is using, and the services that he is going to get to produce the crop that he is producing, like corn. And if it is more than say if he puts in like $2 or $3 dollars per acre, for example, and then if he sells the product for like $4 or $5, and he makes a nominal profit. The actually net margin to a farmer is about 25 to 40% based on the yield. So farmers tend to decrease the operational expenses so that they can increase the profit. So that makes the farm system sustainable and the farming profitable. The Internet of Things, or the sensors that are being used in farms, provide a very good way for farmers to decrease the operational cost. Right now, farmers are using like satellite images, and they use NVDI, which shows them the health of the plant, which is the chlorophyll content. These are sensors in the satellite looking from anywhere 60 or 250 miles above, and the resolution of the image is 100 square feet. 1 pixel is 100 square feet. The resolution is limited, but the farmers can make a decision based on that information that get from those sensors. Bring in unmanned aerial system or drones. When a farmer uses drones, they can fly anywhere from 100 feet, 200 feet, not more than 400 feet, because that is regulated by FAA now. The farmer can look at the plant at 1 square inch resolution. He or she will be able to see the plant, the three-dimensional structure of the plant, the leaf structure, the infestation on the leaf. What if the leaf has been eaten? They can see. The image could show them that how much. And also when the plant is stressed with it doesn't have enough nutrient, for example, calcium or potassium, manganese, whatever, or water, for example. The coloring of the leaf changes based on over water or less water. And the sensors in the unmanned aerial system, you can have multispectral sensors that can look at the plant and give information about the health of that plant. A farmer can decide what type of treatment the farmer has to undertake to fix the problem. An average farmer in this country in the US owns about 440 or 50 acres. And the agricultural companies, the agro companies, they use anywhere north of 8,000 acres of land. A farmer to go around and look at the plant every day, 400 acres is very difficult. If he has something like an unmanned aerial system or a drone, he or she will be able to look and see which part of that parcel, that the field that he owns or she owns, is not getting enough water, not enough nutrient. Instead of spraying the whole 400 acres of land with fertilizer, pesticide, or water, the farmer can restrict that particular patch to get the nutrient. It saves the farmer the money, okay? And also it reduces the pollution. And the farmer can target whatever that treatment that he has to provide to take care of that particular issue that he or she is facing. So it is very, very important. The multispectral sensors that the farmer is going to be using, some farmers are already using, and they may be able to see it at a higher resolution and provide the farmers precise data. That is why it is called precision agriculture. Instead of treating the whole thing in a full-blown way, he or she is concentrating on small patches of the land so that they can conserve and increase yield or take care of the problem that is in one particular patch of the land. So that's where the Internet of Things, in this case sensors, multispectral sensors and chlorophyll sensors or whatever, visible spectrum, near infrared sensors. Sometimes the sensors can pick up the stress of the plant 1 or 2 weeks ahead of the farmer could easily see with the naked eye. So they can inform the farmer to take care of it before the problem becomes, a real problem. So it is going to be, more predictive. So that way the farmer can use predictive analytics from the sensor data and come up with a way to treat, and that predictive analytics can become prescriptive, so it will tell the farmers to what kind of insecticide or the fertilizer or water to use. And for using that water, he or she can send that like a one little drone with like a gallon of water and just pour it there, or 10 gallons of water, just pour it there, instead of sending the water boom to spray the whole area. So it is going to decrease, or it is likely to decrease, the cost of operations for a farmer. So it increases the yield of that particular patch of land or the whole farmland the farmer is using. Why is it important to NAS, National Agricultural Statistics Service? I told you about our mission is to publish timely, accurate, and useful data for U.S. agriculture. And what we do now is we publish about 440 or 450 reports every year. We publish on time all the time, including the commodity reports. You probably saw Trading Places, the movie where they were trading pork bellies, corn, soybeans. You can bet on the market, and there is millions and millions of dollars being bet on and lost and won in the commodity futures market, agricultural commodity futures market. So we take pride in publishing accurate information that is relevant to that particular commodity the agriculture commodity, corn, soybean, whatever the case may be. So now we are having a real challenge. I'm trying to connect the real challenge that we have to Internet of Things, because that's why you are here. You want to listen how the sensitive or the sensors and the Internet of Things are going to help the US agriculture or the federal government. Now we are having more and more problems with collecting data, and there is non-response. Though the law requires the farmers and ranchers and agriculture producers to provide us with the data, quite often we don't get all the data that we want. We conduct hundreds of surveys, and sometimes the response rate is very low, and we are not very happy about it. We send field enumerators, people who go to the farmer and ask for their information. It costs money, it costs time, it is taxpayers' money. If there is a non-response, we send, how many people are there connected to the farm in the US here in the audience? So you know what I'm talking about. So farmers have got other job to do, and they don't have time to sit down and fill out, survey after survey after surveys. But sometimes we get non-response, and we need to get the data, and we struggle with it. How are we going to extrapolate the information? And we try to make statistical adjustments. By the way, we are a statistical agency. We have almost 1,000 statisticians working in our organization, so they know how to handle data, how to come up with data that is close to real data. So, and that's what we do. We have been doing it since 1836. We are older than USDA. So, and we've been doing it for a long time, but we are getting challenged by not getting responses. So instead of asking the farmer, just imagine we collect the data from the sensors. The combines, harvesters, variable rate planters, all these instruments have onboard sensors and systems that collect data. We usually go and ask the farmer, hey, how much fertilizer did you put in? How much water did you use? And by the way, how many acres of land you're going to sow this time? So all this information we get from the farmers. Just imagine getting that information automatically from their machine to our cloud or wherever they are. So we don't even have to ask the farmer. All we need is the permission for us to get the data from the farmer. So that way we can reduce the cost to the farmer, time that the farmer spends giving us the data, and also the cost to the taxpayers that we send the people in the field to get the data, and decrease the cycle time. Because when somebody goes, they collect the data, they write it down, we don't know what they wrote down. So it reduces the inefficiency and increases the validity of the data if we collect the data directly from the combines or sensors. So that is our focus. How are we going to collect this data from the sensors, that onboard sensors, unmanned aerial systems? By the way, in the coming 5 to 10 years, the unmanned aerial systems that are going to be sold in this country, more than 70% are going to be sold to the US agriculture. Not DoD, not the first responders. Agriculture is going to be the main user of drones moving forward. So that's the estimate. If you assume that 2015 was 0 drones, 2016 is going to be close to 200,000 drones being used by agriculture. I can give an example. You probably know the winemaker Gallo, and they are in California. They use lots of remote sensors and onboard sensors and in-ground sensors. They could predict the quality and the amount of the yield within 1 to 2%. They are very, very accurate. So they can set up their business based on what the yield is going to be. So the sensors are so powerful, and they have analytics to use that data and make the predictions, so they can rent or arrange the logistics and the productivity for wine production that they do, or the table grapes that they sell. They can get orders from whoever the customers are and better plan that. So it is there, it is being used in pockets, but there is going to be more and more precision agriculture that's going to be used using sensors and Internet of Things. So with that, I will just leave it at that at this point, and if there are more questions, I'll be glad to answer any questions, or maybe you'll make it a more of an interactive discussion, how we can take this and what I think is going to be the future for Internet of Things in US agriculture, or for the world for that matter. So with that, I'll stop. Thank you.
I'd like to kind of offer a couple of questions to get this started. So Doctor, when you were saying the opportunities here, clearly increase yield, bring better efficiencies to the whole process, right? Obviously, there were some green initiatives coming through at the end when you can reduce pollution and all that areas. But can we flip it? What are some of the challenges that we've got, or that you're facing, and that you see in implementing and having IoT come out?
The challenges in agriculture are not unique, but if you look at the platforms, IoT has got at least 18 or over 19 IoT platforms now. And look at the standardization of sensors. And each sensor maker has different way of collecting data and transmitting the data. And look at the availability of communication, like transmission lines in the rural areas, and still there is not that much wideband that is available in every rural community, even in this country. So there are several limitations. Standardization, so the standards are very hard to come by. There are issues, or there are challenges in standardizing all the data coming from all different sensors in the agriculture. And if you look at the ecosystem in this country, if you come across any particular format, or the way of data being transmitted and the format of the data, it's going to be all different, because the companies that produce this equipment or collect the data, and they are going to have, they don't want to give up the market share, and they want to grow their own market. And we have done this, we have seen this before, and you remember pre-TCP IP days, and SNNP and IPS, VPS. We had all kinds of transmission protocols, and then somebody agreed that we will go with TCP IP because it's a lot easier. It's going to take some time to standardize different data formats and the signal processors, or maybe collectors sending the signals. So that is one. Then the main issue is policy issue. Who owns the data? In this country, there is about 943 million acres of farmland, and about 40% of the farmland is being rented out. The owner of that particular farmland is not the one who is operating the farmland. There are so many people who are renting the farmland, and it may be individual folks or maybe companies that are renting the land, and they are the operators of the farm. And then what they do is they go to the service providers, the guys who own the drones and the fixed aerial vehicles, or the sensor companies, and then, hey, can you run this for me? Okay, I want you to scout my land and give me the data. Now they have this data, right? There are combines, say John Deere, for example. They rent out combines and farm equipment. And by the way, Pioneer, they have the seeding thing, and Monsanto, they have their own rental business. So they also provide seeds and all that stuff. So these companies are providing services to these people who are renting the farm, and they have the data. So the data is from the people who collect the data, then they give it to the person who is renting the field, and the owner comes along, hey, that's my field, and that's my data. How do you reconcile this? And there is no law, rules, or regulations to control the data. And how do you know that data is kept with the data collection agency or data collector in this example? By the way, there are data collectors. I know of 2 companies. One is a nonprofit organization which started collecting the farm data from different fields. And they have a 39-point plan that says we shall abide by this and this and this and this. And by the way, data is owned by the farmer. Then based on this leasing agreement, define a farmer. The guy who leased the land or the guy who actually owns the land, right? How are we going to prevent this company that collected the data from sharing this data from someone else? How is that being protected? Oh, by the way, this data is valuable. There is another company that just got started 2 weeks ago that said, Mr. Farmer or Miss Farmer, for every acre of data, the data of every acre, if you provide me, I'll give you $2. So they are monetizing the field data so that they can better predict or maybe sell the ideas back to the farmer. Oh, by the way, I have this data I've been collecting for 10 years for now, so I'm going forward 10 years. And by the way, I have seen this trend. By the way, Mr. or Miss Farmer, if you plant this seed during this time and use this type of fertilizer and this type of insecticide, I can predict your yield is going to be this much, and you can sell futures on it. Boom. So, right? So the thing is, if somebody is going to give you $2, they are not going to give it for free, but the data has value, and they are going to monetize the data, do something with it, use algorithms, predictive algorithms or whatever. Could be diagnostic, for example. Mr. Farmer, I noticed that your infestation is a lot in that particular area. I will send my drone and spray it, then you only pay $100 for it. Boom, it's done. So there is going to be lots of opportunities to monetize this sensor data, the data being collected. So, I'm sort of moving away from the question, but the thing is there are all kinds of challenges, policy level questions, technology level questions, and architectural questions, because how are we going to architect a system like this and also still have controls over it? So it is a thorny issue, but it has to be at different level, technical level, policy level, and procedure level, the way how it is being all done. So it is a very nascent field, and there are lots of questions in this, and everybody is looking for answers. So I'll stop there.
Sure. So let's go down, and I'm a farmer now.
Okay.
Okay. I know what's in it because there's some opportunities here, but how do you reach out and get that partnership with the farmers? How does that end user, end constituent partner to make sure that what's happening here is actually driving value?
There's a professor, I think he's in Iowa University, Dr. Raj Khoshla. He did a study on the initial use of precision farming. He did some surveys or asked farmers, and he said when a farmer uses some sort of a precision agriculture related technique, in the way when I define precision agriculture is like using sensors and tools and technologies to measure a local area of that particular field or farm and use that knowledge to overcome the challenge, whether it is insufficient water, insufficient nitrogen, or insufficient care in terms of infestation, and it needs insecticide being sprayed or nematode infestation. There are all kinds of problems a farm has. So if a farmer uses one of those, at least just one, just by using one of those precision agriculture methodologies, they could increase the yield by 15 to 30% or decrease that particular cost by up to 50%. One farmer using this, just like water, moisture content detection, he was able to save 50% on his water, because in California, water is very expensive. So if you can save 50% of water, instead of, you don't want to flood the field, and you just want to spray water where the water is needed, and you can control the amount of water that you take in. You have to pay for the water, right? So you can decrease the cost and the operational cost. It goes to your bottom line. It will be part of your profit instead of flooding the field or spraying the whole thing. And going back to your partnership, what the farmers do, because farmers don't have a lot of money, and all the money has gone into their land, or in buying the equipment or leasing the equipment. So what they do is they partner with these the service providers like John Deere, Monsanto, Cargill, Pioneer, and other DuPont. They provide these services, and if they partner with them, and they may be able to help the farmer out and the share in their whatever the profit or the decrease in loss that they get, that will be helpful. And for our own sake, what we are looking at collecting this data from farmers. We are talking to certain universities right now, and see if we can have a partnership, because they are flying these drones and collecting the data, and we may be able to partner with them and use some of their models that they have, predictive models that they are using, and may be able to use that data to predict the crop condition. By the way, one of the things that National Agricultural Statistics Service does is we publish reports called crop condition. Starting February 15 till November, every week we publish reports about the crop condition. That means that we will ask the farmer, Mr. Farmer or Ms. Farmer, how many acres of seed you are going to put in, how many acreage that you are going to plant. Then once the thing is planted, then we would say, we would publish the climatic condition for that particular state or county. We publish county level data and state level data. Okay, this much moisture, this many planting days, this much sun you got. So all this information we publish, so the farmers can use the information for their crop growth. And also we publish the crop condition. Crop is in good condition, fair condition, poor condition. So these are all more qualitative publications that we do, but from the NOAA and other satellites and NASA, we get the climate information. We also publish that, so the farmers can use that information in their operations. So those things that we do. And instead of asking the farmer to provide the information, Mr. Farmer, tell me how your plant looks like this week. We said, it looks okay. I would say good. We'd go next week. How does it look this week, farmer? It looks a little dull. Maybe it needs some rain, looks like it. And the week after, say, oh, it's poor. It hasn't rained in like 2 weeks, so it's poor. So we go back to the same farmer, asking him every week the question. They get tired of this thing. How can a farmer go around and scout the field, which is 400 acres, and give us that information? Sometimes the farmer would say, hey, heck with these guys, yeah, good, bad, and ugly, so he'll get rid of us. So the thing is, if we can get the information right from the sensors, we know exactly what the condition the plant is in. We won't have to bother the farmer. So we will be able to collect the data. Using the data, if we run it through some models, we will be able to predict what the condition of the crop is and how the. By the way, in July, August, then we will publish the estimated yield based on the plant condition. Okay, if the corn is growing very well, we can say this many bushels that we expect from this field, or from this county, from this state. So it is all aggregated at the national level or the state level, and it goes into the Chicago Board of Options Exchange, and people bet on it, and they buy options, and they can move. World Agricultural Organization looks at the whole world and estimates the crop yield in Russia or somewhere else, and Brazil, and try to move this crop from place to place so that people don't go hungry. When there is no food, there's going to be lots of fights and wars breaking out. It prevents that from happening. So going back to my previous comment, we can gather this data from the sensors and be able to publish the data real fast and also reduce the cost. And instead of being semi-quantitative, or instead of being qualitative, it could be semi-quantitative based on this multispectral data. That is our hope. We are talking to some of the universities and see if we may be able to use their phenology models, which look at the crop health, and then we can use that as one of our publications, or maybe add to our publications we already have, or come up with better models and better data to help the farmers. So it's one of the ways that we could improve our own publications to help the farmers and the farm business in this country. That's what we are looking for. So.
Any questions from the audience?
Yes, sir.
What can you tell us about California? I know with the water shortage, it's really impacting crops. I hear there's like 1 million acres of fields that are fallow, and it's going to have some tremendous impact on the food supply, not only for the United States, but also the world, since California is the breadbasket of the world.
I can talk. I don't want to get into trouble by saying something that I'm not really sure of. But the things I do agree with you, it is one of the bigger states, and agriculturally it is most important for the U.S. And I do not know in what way you want me to phrase the answer in terms of Internet of Things. I can give you an example of a child.
As to what your prognosis is of California
as the user of...
as its ability to continue to produce the crop yields that you're trying to increase and work on to...
Well, our interest is, as a nation or as the world, to increase the crop yield for obvious reasons. Wherever that we can increase the yield, we are going to support it. And so it has to be cost effective because, when I'll give you an example of Arkansas, right? I was just reading one article that said that, most of the salad that we eat, looks like the bag salad, comes from Arkansas. They can grow this thing year round because there is sun all the time, and there is, what's the river that flows through Arkansas? They get from the Grand Canyon. I'm forgetting the name. They pump water from there, and it is, they could use lots of this data to increase their productivity. And California is one of those states that are early adapters of technology. I won't be surprised that if they jump pretty much on all these different sensors and unmanned aerial systems that are available to them. I gave an example of Gallo, so they can look at Gallo and see how Gallo is using their sensors and remote sensors and in-ground sensors. Maybe they could use that type of sensors in California, pretty much everywhere, for corn-growing states, for example. So they could use these sensors or similar sensors to increase their yield. It is applicable to pretty much anything, even almond growers in California, for example, so they can use sensors to increase their yield. The idea is to decrease the operational cost so that you don't want to be spraying the almond tree, for example, or any plant or any field that you have with fertilizer unless you need to. Because if you know the nitrogen content, maybe one part of the field probably have a higher nitrogen content compared to the other part. You just focus on the other one. You don't have to spray here because it already has enough nitrogen in it. Same way water. So there may be field is like up and down. The field that is up probably needs more water than the field that is down. So you just give water to that particular area of the field. So you can control your inputs in the field using the sensors and decrease the cost that way. So, I do not know if I answered the questions, but I don't have anything specific to offer, unfortunately. Sorry. Yes, sir.
How do the, economically disadvantaged farmers pay for this? That's curious.
Well,
I was just curious to see what the infrastructure comes on.
Well, the thing is, though, we have some programs at USDA. And we do have grants that are available. I think we make millions of dollars of grants available to these farms and farmers who could take advantage of it to try it. And we have an organization within USDA called NIFA, and that provides grants. And also we have different agencies within USDA, for example, Agricultural Research Service And if through the extension services agents that we have in the field, they may be able to reach out to Agriculture Research Service and see how they can take advantage of the grants or facilities that are available to the U.S. farmers. I think USDA's focus is to help the farmers, especially the small farmers, because if you look at the sustainable agriculture, I think small farms are more interested in not having monoculture, and they are more productive compared to the monoculture or big agro businesses in per field area. So there is lots of help that is available and assistance that is available in terms of research and as well as financially and other technologically. So that is something that the farmers can reach out to. I think USDA is there to help the small farmers and big farmers, but mostly small farmers, especially family farms, and to help them sustain and survive. Because if you look at the farm population, we don't have a lot of youngsters coming into farming anymore, because it's kind of hard for them. It's very hard to make a good living farming, and the average US farmer is about 59 years now, and we are not getting young blood coming in. So there is lots of focus to encourage new people to come into the field and sustain US agriculture. Otherwise, it's going to be a challenge for us to sustain that level of productivity that we need in this country to feed us and feed the world, because we export a lot of farm products to other countries, and that is one of the areas where we continue to see constant growth in export. We export a lot of stuff, farm products, to other countries, and so that is very important for us we are pretty much feeding the other countries, but we are feeding ourselves, and it is also a good cause for us to, sustain lives all over the world. Yes, sir. I'm sorry. You next.
Okay. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you for your speech. And I have a question. Consider about the cost and output of agriculture. I think for the small farmland, for the farmers, it's very cost for them to use the technology, even though the technology can help increase the productivity. But how can you balance the cost and output of the technique?
Yeah,
and that is one question. For another question is, I don't know if you have such a restriction on the export of technology, agriculture technology from America to the developing countries, because maybe the productivity of the developing countries is quite low, and the sensors like you have told us, it's quite inspiring and can help the emerging countries to increase their productivity. So do you have restrictions on the export?
Yes, good question. I didn't plan this question, by the way.
Thank you.
Good questions. To answer your first question, in this country we have cooperatives, agricultural cooperatives. For small farmers, they can form those cooperatives, and we have helped quite a bit of that activity and helping the small farmers and co-ops and to market their products, and to use they can join together and they have a collective bargaining status, and they can utilize the technology as well as the markets that are available for them to sell their products. So that's facilities already available, and USDA helps farmers with that in this country. And going back to the next one, you said in the developing countries they don't have all this technology and things available. Last year I met with I think it was a Monsanto or John Deere. I think it was John Deere representative who came from here, came from India. He's from here, and he went to India, and he looked at the Indian farms. The average Indian farm is about half an acre, not 440 acres. So if you take one of the John Deere tractors, it won't work in the Indian farm. So what they are doing is they are making it smaller to suit the field. So they are focusing on helping the developing countries. By the way, USDA and President Obama has a big push in helping the African nations to increase their yield, increase the product, helping them with technology. And National Agricultural Statistics Service, as we have an international program office that we go with US Department of State and other US agencies and help the agricultural systems in other countries. I was part of the delegation that went to Bangladesh and to help them with their statistical process, and also helping them the other marketing, agriculture marketing service on the foreign. There is like a foreign service, foreign agricultural service, excuse me. So we have different entities that go to these countries and help them with their agriculture, because it is in our own interest to help them grow the products that we need. There is no way America can support or feed the whole world. And if we show them how to fish, they can fish instead of giving them the fish. So that is what we are trying to do. US is very good in doing that. We have been working with developing countries and other countries to increase their productivity and also increase the variety, so that if there is a disease or something that doesn't knock out everything that is available here, you can go somewhere else and get that. So, and we are doing that as a nation, as a national policy, and also USDA. Secretary Vilsack has been very adamant about helping other nations and other countries to help them with their growth and yield and decreasing the cost and giving them the better variety and the technology to share. I don't think there is any export restrictions that I am aware of in terms of what we export. There is export restrictions on the military hardware we sell, but not on the agricultural products. I don't think that there is any restriction that I am aware of. So we do help other countries to grow their needs, or maybe export to others, so that there will be a robust trade that goes on. It is good for everybody, because the fundamental need is food. We need water, we need clean water. So, and we look forward to helping other countries in growing their own food that they need to feed their populace. Thank you. Sir, you had a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering, how does your organization partner with, like, how do you kind of get how do you manage the acquisition of the data and the management of the data that you're using to perform your statistics from kind of like the sensor arrays? Is it like a public-private partnership kind of thing, or?
Good question. I can answer one part of the question, not all of it, because I don't know the answer to it. But let me start with one. There are 26 statistical agencies in the federal government. National Agricultural Statistics Service is one of them, and Census, everybody knows Census. And there are Bureau of Labor Management and Department of Commerce. We collect all kinds of data. There is something called Confidential Information Protection and Statistical Enhancement Act, which is eGov Act 2000, part of that. It says that the data that we collect, we have to protect the data for privacy reasons and security reasons. If we knowingly release that information, make it available to public, we could go to jail for 5 years and fine $250,000 or both. So we are very careful in what data we collect and how we protect the data and where we keep it, how we dispose it. So we are very, very careful, NAS as well as other federal agencies. And in public-private partnership, and that is one of the concerns that we have. And I have not been successful in convincing my senior managers that the data that's being collected by a private entity, how can we guarantee privacy of someone else's data collected, because we don't have control over it. If you don't have control, and you cannot own indemnity for the data. So, and the way that I'm thinking, this is just my own personal opinion, what we could do is we can obfuscate that data and somehow mask it and get the data that we want, but I don't think we will be held, we need to be held responsible, because it's between the data collector and the farmer, and they have to have some agreement. There are Farm Service Bureau and other bureaus, there are farmer entities, organizations that work with these data collectors, and they have some agreement. I saw a 39-point plan or something that details about transparency and control of this data. And the farmers and the companies, they agree to abide by those service level agreements. And what we can do is go into that and see if we can extend that to us and collect data from there instead of going to the farmer and asking him for the same information. So we are looking at that possibility right now. It is not in place. That is a good public-private partnership, but then the policy has to change because we cannot be held responsible for data that was collected by someone else. Then how are we going to validate the data that was collected? How do we know that is the right data? There is an issue right there. That is a challenge for us. And what is the reliability of the data? What is the reliability of the sensors? How are those sensors calibrated? Can we trust that information? What is the trustworthiness of the data? These are the real challenges that we are coming across that we need to face moving forward. So, and those are a few things that we need to think about. Good question. Thank you.
We have time for one more question, if there is one. If not, thank you, Doctor. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for your participation today.
Thank you. Thank you again.